I was expecting this footpath to be closed still. I'd forgotten the dates of when it was actually closed, but seemingly it reopened on the 10th of December. And why was it closed? Well, further back down there, which is where I'm heading, because that's the way back to the car anyway, there's an area of Budby South Forest that has been contaminated with cordite for many years. And the cordite has been there from the days of the army, or from when the army left it. Now, the cordite was supposed to have been removed in this last few weeks of 2021, and I have a feeling that nothing's been done. And that was the reason for this particular footpath through the western end of Budby South Forest, and it goes right up through to Clipston Old Quarter up that way. And that was why this footpath has been closed. I don't see any evidence of large heavy lorries or excavators having been driven down here, but apparently the area in question was badly contaminated by cordite. And it's quite interesting, and I'll tell you a bit more about it as we get down there, that it was rarely used by invertebrates, even those invertebrates that burrowed into dry sandy soil. But while I'm here, I also wanted to have a check on the tree that's behind my big head, because that particular tree is the tree where I took one purple emperor egg off earlier in the summer. The other one is down there, and we're going to go past it in a bit, but I won't film it. I thought a few weeks ago I heard the chainsaw going down here, and indeed I did, but I think where they must have been chopping down was further that way, although some of these trees behind me, these beeches, are marked up for removal, as are most beech trees in Nottinghamshire. Now, the area affected by cordite lies just behind that temporary metal fencing on the right of the path, just a few yards further up. But before we have a look at that, I wanted to show you this particular birch tree on the left. Now, this birch is a particularly important tree within the Sherwood Forest National Nature Reserve, and it's important because of its usefulness to one particular insect. And that insect is the Welsh clearing moth, which was discovered by former Sherwood Forest Ranger Gary Joynt in 2009, if I remember right. Dillis and myself did a lot of surveying for exit holes of the Welsh clearing, and we ultimately found this particular tree. It's a 6-trunked birch, and as you can see, up to a height of about 5-6 feet, it is heavily fissured, and the bark, when it gets like that, is ideal for the Welsh clearing females to deposit their eggs. Second only to one other tree, perhaps, near the Swinecote Gate in Sherwood Forest Country Park, this tree has more Welsh clearing exit holes than any other tree in the NNR. And here's several Welsh clearing exit holes. We have one there, look, a nice one there, and there, and there, one there, and there's one further down there. There are probably more tucked away, but just not quite in shot. Now, typically, Welsh clearing exit holes are 5mm in diameter. Not 4, not 6, but 5. And in the spring, after the emergence of the adults, the pupal exuvia, which basically means the empty chrysalis or pupa, will be found halfway out of these holes. It's amazing how the larvae do it, because obviously the larva has to prepare this exit hole before pupating, and so will bore out of the bark from underneath the bark, and then presumably pupates relatively close to the entrance, probably down maybe about an inch or so, and the moth will probably presumably crawl its way out and then free itself from the pupa once out in the open air. But this tree is incredibly important for Welsh clearwing. It's fairly well known by all accounts, this tree now. Let's hope it never gets the chop during routine works, because certainly management know the importance of this tree, so there is no excuse. Sounds like the crows have seen me. They must be spying for the RSPB. But this is the area of the contaminated soil. There are various sort of hollows in it from the resulting explosions of when the army blew up the Cordite here many years ago. But it's quite interesting, this particular area, because there has always been large areas of bare ground here that are only now just starting to become slightly grassed over. For years, the soils remained open and very little grows. Heather certainly doesn't touch it, but also neither does many invertebrates. Because this end of Budby is the home and realm of the oil beetle, found only a few years ago. Another species that Dilys and I surveyed for and recorded the numbers of numerous times a year since that discovery. But right on the very left hand side of your screen, you'll notice how well the heather still grows, and how around the track in front of you and to the right of the screen there's virtually no heather. Yet at one time the right of the screen looked the same as the left hand screen. But this is the area that should have been scraped. The soil within this temporary compound was due to be scraped off to a depth of a couple of feet, I presume, and then filled back in with uncontaminated soil. Where they'd get that from, God only knows. And it's been like this now for a couple of years. It's took a long time for the work to be done, presumably. It's because of this nasty virus that's going around, allegedly. But some work was done when the fencing was put up, and there was about a 6 or 8 feet wide strip that was scraped. As you can see, just the other side of the fence line, you can see where the heather finishes, and then you get the fence, then you get the scraped area, And then the area of heathland, as it has been for a number of years, was always favoured by woodlarks, this particular area. So I'm presuming now, because we're post-Christmas, this is Boxing Day when I'm filming this, that they're either going to do it very early in the new year, but typically, with anything to do with Sherwood, it'll probably get left till about March, when migrant birds started to arrive. Or it could get left until next year. But it's a shame that it's not been done this year and got out of the way. But regarding oil beetles never touched that area, and even minotaur beetles didn't. And minotaurs are plentiful at this end of Budby. They're in, well, both species are in amongst the heather on the right of the fence, but not in the area affected by cordite. And it's never even been used to a great degree by ground nesting solitary bees. So inverts can obviously detect and don't like the presence of cordite within the ground. Let's hope the work gets done soon and this area can be restored. So that's the progress, or lack of progress, regarding this area of Budby South Forest. Still looks good habitat, but if they leave it much longer, woodlarks will be looking for territory and setting up territory, and this is one of the best areas for woodlark. It's a shame that they've not done the work, but I suspected that they hadn't, and I thought I'll just have a pop up and check. Gave me something to do on a dull and gloomy Boxing Day. At least it stopped drizzling.